Have you ever been victimized by New Age spirituality?
We've been waiting for you. We've been waiting.
You're going to want to listen up.
I'm Megan, an intuitive life coach and Reiki master.
I'm Ryan, a professional astrologer, and we want to show you what spirituality is by talking about what it is not.
Con artist.
Yes.
Snake oil salesman.
There are so many susceptible people out there.
And then they're tainted. They're ruined. They don't want to come back to spirituality.
We still have a lot to learn, and we will humble ourselves and learn, I think, every freaking day. This is Clairanoyance,
a podcast of spiritual interference.
Welcome back to another episode. I don't know what number this is because we're just kind of throwing out the episodes right now.
33, 34.
Is it? Well, I mean, it might be 35 because I got a couple more in the bank. Shit.
Oh yeah, I'm you're right.
Yeah. Dude, I don't know what. Anyway, very excited about today's episode and today's guest. And it makes me think about how interesting it is that you meet people these days who don't live near you. Like, it's so fascinating. Like, when did this happen? Like, you only made friends and connections in your immediate environment growing up. You know what I mean? Like, it was like who you went to school with, who lived on your block, like blah, blah, blah. But now, like, the people that I'm meeting don't live anywhere near me. Like, and I'm meeting them online. I met you through Shauna. Like, we live on opposite coasts. Like, it's just like crazy. And like, I'm thinking about the people that I've just met through TikTok, like literally that, like, I just started a business with someone that I met on TikTok. I haven't met in real life. Like, I mean, it's crazy. It's fucking nuts to me. Isn't that like a weird phenomenon too?
Your Gemini ass is really hustling on the World Wide Web.
Damn, that's the truth. That's the fucking
With that
truth.
Aquarius moon, you are
Aquarius rising. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, for sure.
Oh, Cancer moon. Yeah, so you met everyone out. Yeah, so yeah, you're really making the most of this technology.
That's so true. I'm like, let's create a little community, guys. Like, but I'm selective. Like, I am so super, super selective, I think, with like who I will choose to engage with, to be honest, mostly because I think I don't like a lot of people. I do. But like, when it comes to like professionalism,
particularly in your line of business, like there's in all of our line of businesses, but there's any asshat can be like, hey, I'm an astrologer and cafeastrology.com, I put your chart in and let me read verbatim. So I think that when you find someone who knows their craft and then knows their craft so much that they pick several niches to examine and to dive into, it's a different story.
Totally. Which brings us to our guest for this episode, which drum roll please, met through TikTok. And it's so cool though. Like, I mean, as anybody listening knows, like, we are pretty no bullshit with anything in the spiritual community. And like, we love the like profound nature of it. And like, for sure. But we will really go against these like snake oil salesman types. And so our guest today, Xyla Bones, is someone that I came across a video of her calling this woman out, and I saw the woman's video too. Yeah, I think like that must be why I came across Xyla, because of the way the algorithm works. I saw the woman's video first, but I had just like finished calling someone else out. So I was like,
you were like, I don't want to like this. You were now I remember you were so irritated, and you were like, I don't want to. I've already done a call out video. I got some negativity on it. I don't want that. I don't want it to be about my page. And then you came across her and you were like, oh, perfect. And it was Lionsgate too. There was something to do with Lionsgate. Well, that was the one too.
Definitely before. No. Okay. So there was the Lionsgate was like one that I did earlier this year. But then shortly after that, I did that the thunderclap one. The guy who was like, there's going to be a thunderclap like in the sky. They're like a comet running into the sun. Whatever, dumbass. And then I saw this one chick, and then thank God saw Xyla be like, what? Like, she duetted this lady, and this lady was like running through all this like weird astrology, and Xyla's like, what are you talking about? So anyway, I had to like totally stitch Xyla's video and be like, oh, please go watch this, because this is amazing, and got mad respect for anybody who's going to call out the fakers, the posers. So all that said, very excited to introduce everybody to Xyla Bone. Xyla, please say hi, introduce yourself. Who are you? Where are you from? What are you about?
Hi. I am a slayer of bullshit, I guess. No, I like to stick it to people. If you're gonna come scare people for no reason, I got a problem with that. I got a Xyla bone to pick with you. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. That name just keeps giving.
The branding. Yeah. Hell yeah.
You always don't know how many times I love to say, I can feel it in my Xyla bones, guys.
Yeah. I love it. So, like where how did you get to this
how'd
space?
You get here?
Like I just came across you. Who are you?
I know. And thank God you did, because it's been a long time coming for me to meet other astrologers that also don't tolerate bullshit, that like to shoot straight, like to tell it like it is, like to be real with people and like actually give people information that will help them, empower people with astrology rather than suppress or control. But yeah, I actually come from a Protestant Christian background, and so I really don't like being controlled. So obviously coming from that, and no hate to any Christians out there. I still love Jesus. Jesus is a cool guy. I believe Jesus is a Pisces personally, but
yes, all day. That man is not a Capricorn. Give me a break.
Not a Capricorn.
Oh my God.
Capricorn.
He didn't like shoes.
He had a foot fetish. Like, come on.
I say that all the time. I'm like, what do you think the foot fetish was about?
Yeah.
Yes, like a gay posse of followers. Like, what do you think that was? Jesus was a witch. He had a gay orgy, had a foot fetish. Okay. Yeah. Like,
yes.
A queen.
Facts
like,
on facts. Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful hair.
Hair. friends with sex workers. We love to see it.
Precisely. Yeah. I'm a Pisces, and check. I'm like, there's no way. No, and I love my Capricorns, but like, yeah, he was getting down to business, but spiritual business. Like what? I bet Pilate or whatever, the bad men. Like, well, I don't want to say they were Capricorns. They were Capricorns, not Jesus. But that story sells. That slaps a little bit more.
The symbolism there, like him being a Pontius Pilate being a Capricorn, very much like gives me a Capricorn, because he's like, I'm just doing my duty, and
exactly. Or Virgo. Virgo's got a little king. Yeah, Virgo's got little kings for like, I'm gonna hurt you, and I like it.
He's like, I'm gonna wash my hands of this. The washing the hands thing, very Virgo, very not my fault. So
an ex-Protestant Christian. So I was raised Catholic. So I get that. How did you find astrology?
Oh gosh. We all heard about it, like probably in middle school was our first time hearing about it. And it comes up every once in a while in high school and college. And you're like, yeah, it's fun. I was kind of like, I'm a Libra, but does this am I when I heard the description of Libra, I'm like, yes, but also like I'm not like this soft, like fluffy girl on the inside, because people often describe Libra that way, or that's like your first impression of it, which it's really not. But then like I was like, I just resonate so strongly with Scorpio. Like people always thought I was a Scorpio and all that kind of stuff. And I was just kind of like, yeah, I guess, I'll just leave this here for now and circle back to it when, we want to play some sleepover game or something. I don't know. But then I actually was getting into mixology. And then I was, TikTok came on the scene during COVID, and I was like, I should start making mixology content. And then there were all these Zodiac series coming out. And I was like, ooh, I should capitalize on this trend and do like a Zodiac series of cocktails. And my goal was to like embody each Zodiac energy in a cocktail. So much so that like each sign who drank it, their own like specially made cocktail, they would be like, this is delicious, because like I could tell it was like made for my energy. Like I was really getting into it. Like,
cool.
I was like, I'm going to make this the most unique series that's ever been done. And so then I had to research all of the Zodiac signs. And then I stumbled across this whole birth chart concept. I was like, wait, I'm not just a Libra. And then I was gone. Yeah, I never came back.
So this is relatively new because this is 3.5 years in,
yeah.
Cool. So you went in for the gold, but
I have had no like official job for the last 3 years. I only had time to study astrology, and that's all I've been doing. So.
It's important. That was a big thing for me too. I had been laid off and was like, I got nothing else to do but like immerse myself in all this shit. So it comes really quick when you've got that time. So that's a nice thing. But you're like, even though astrology, I feel like is this newest manifestation of Xyla bones, you have done so many other things that kind of led to your natural interest in this, right?
Oh yes, I've been an artist my whole life. So never not been an artist. I like the earliest I can remember, I was drawing. Love to draw animals in particular. And then dragons, to be more specific. I have a real affinity for dragons. Little fun fact. And then I was just kind of always doing the whole left brain, right brain juggle my whole life. My parents were like, "You're so special and so gifted. You should be doing something in STEM careers and not anything with your artistic qualities because that doesn't make any money." And so,
yes,
they're not wrong. They're not wrong.
They weren't wrong. They weren't. So they were like pressured me to do architecture, which was kind of left brain, right brain. But then I got there and I was like, I feel like the design's too subjective. I'm going to do engineering because you can make more money like that. And so then I finished my engineering degree, and then I could not. I worked in the field for about a year. I loved my coworkers. Like that was the only thing that kept me like sane the whole time. But there was just not a lot of communication. I didn't get the teamwork opportunities that probably would have helped me out a lot. It was a startup, so they were like, they had no time to train. And yeah, it was just
sink or swim. It's like, here you go, you just graduate. That's a lot. I mean, I don't know if I've been in spirituality for 10 years, 12 years. I don't think I've ever met anyone who had such a background, like a very like architecture, engineer, math, science.
But those are the keywords right there: math, science. Like,
it's math, science.
That's the interesting open door, I think, to this.
I love that.
I mean, to be an astrologer, you have to have the intuitive and the logical. You can't divorce them. They're like, and that's where the most, and they've often said, like in philosophical things, like when the marriage of art and science is where like real magic happens. And that's something I'm really passionate about, is like bringing dreams to reality. I actually had a whole speech. My one gallery show that I had as an artist, I've read this whole speech about making reality, like bringing your dreams into reality, like seeing the magic in every little moment. And because the world is so dark and we need more people to have like a childlike wonder. But like, so it's like bringing magic to reality, but you're not divorcing the two. It's not about complete delusion. A little delulu is good. But, like,
delusion about yourself, I think, is like, I mean, clearly you have to be a little delusional to leave engineering and architecture and then be like, you know what? Plot twist. My name is Xyla Bones and I am now an astrologer. What the fuck is up?
I'm a TikTok superstar and an astrologer. Goodbye, everybody.
So be delusional about yourself and your own capabilities, but like a practical understanding of the real world. So I think you've merged these seamlessly.
I guess, I'm trying. I'm doing my best.
You're rocking it. No, I mean, even last night I saw that video that you made where she was getting, I love, like, she's consistent with her call outs. So then there was some like a person who left a comment on one of her videos and was like, well, the common denominator is all these astrologers who don't know what they're talking about or whatever. And Xyla makes a video reply to it and it's like, let's look at the word denominator, and pulls up these like fractions and she's like, this is a denominator. I'm like, she's literally using her like math background to like treat people right now. It's so funny.
I think I have a sick fetish for mansplaining to people.
I love it. Own it. Take it back. Reclaim. It's yours.
I'm going to claim that. I'm going to reclaim mansplaining for myself.
Libras love to explain, though. There's a few, like, Libras I think are so misunderstood because the people with the wickedest temper I know are Libras. So like this love and peaceful. And I'm like, yeah, you're pretty, but like you're screaming. Like, I've never seen a temper. Even Scorpios, like all the signs that you would be like, oh, anger. I have yet to come across a more wicked temper than from a Libra.
It's because we repress it all.
So you're the dragon roar.
That's where the dragon comes from. I was actually just talking to, so also another part of my background is I am a witch. And regular
Cool.
practitioner of, I just found sex magic pretty recently, actually, and it's new and exciting frontier for me, and it's been rather productive, I must say so. And it's not
Well,
nearly,
yeah, I hope so.
All right.
not nearly as scary or strange or as people would think. It's like pretty straightforward, honestly. But
1 click, 2 click, 3 click, 4.
there's no math involved in that though.
Yeah.
So. What else was I going to talk about with that? Oh yeah, I was just talking to one of my witch friends last night. I was circling back to the dragon. He was saying that he was like, "Oh, did you know one of the symbols of intuition is a dragon?" And I was like, "Huh, that's fascinating." And I was like, "Okay, that makes sense because dragon is fire, fire is the intuition, fire in the gut, listen to your gut." Okay, okay. And then the Kundalini energy being the serpent also often ties back into dragon symbolism. And so, yeah, that's a fun fact for you that I learned last night
That is
from
cool.
a witch mentor.
Yeah.
That is cool.
I also just saw something that was basically saying dragons are like an anomaly because every culture totally remote from each other even has dragons like in their background. Like everybody's conceptualized this creature that quote unquote doesn't exist. Like there's this like innate dragon brain in us and that we like can visualize it and like make it part of our lore, you know?
And also part of elemental, like, like elemental magic. I mean, like, it's a well-known fact you don't fuck with like fairies or fae or trolls or, elves, but like everyone messes with dragons because they're nice ones. They're like, sup?
Yeah.
You want to be friends? So that's interesting. So you have like different niches that you like. We talked about like the sex magic, but you've got like you're just not like a broad astrologer. You in your travels and studies in the past few years really delved deep. So because you got a few here and some things that I'm pretty well versed, like I said, but I have never heard of vibrational astrology.
Oh my gosh. I was literally just listening to a video about it this morning and just they were for the first time because the field of vibrational astrology, by the way, sort of touches on more closely and like applies more of the theory of physics to astrology than I have seen like before or since. Like it's just like let me directly apply waveforms and the unit circle and stuff that I learned in engineering school directly to astrology. And I was like, oh, my like eyes popped out of my head and I was like, oh my gosh, what are they saying? Like I need to know more about this. And so basically what vibrational astrology gets at is that it breaks you down to like your pure vibrational essence is like often the way they describe it. And what they've been doing is they've tested, they have this database of like over 90,000 AA rated charts, which means they have the birth time from the birth certificate. So they know for sure this is the accurate time, which is important to have such pure data for these experiments and this research project. And so what they do is they basically speed up your chart times 2, times 3, times 4. And what this does is it aligns all of your aspects together into conjunctions. And then they can see other finer aspects with this mathematical theory. I don't want to get in too deep because some people may drift off. But
Right.
they're like looking for who, like a lot of these charts that they're testing are celebrity charts, famous people who did something important. And they'll see like which types of people come up for certain prime numbers. So because prime numbers don't have multiples of each other. And what they'll find is like, oh, there's these qualities that come out in each prime number vibration. Like, oh, there's a very specific quality of a person that they can isolate with these experiments. So then you're getting this pure vibration of this person. And it'll be something so refined as like, how can this person direct a group? And they found that this specific vibration is really common among politicians, right?
Wow.
Yeah. So like really specific stuff or like people who pull like really empathic is another one they'll pull out, like just pure empathy. It's common in actors they found.
Yeah,
like
makes sense.
Yeah. So they're able to isolate really refined characteristics of human beings with this. And so I have a mentor in this section of astrology. And he is just so excited. It's so fun to watch people get so excited about what they do. But like he goes to conferences and he's been doing this for like 30 years and it's like, wow. So, but yeah, the most recent discovery they've made in vibrational astrology is the 53rd vibration, which is the one I just told you guys about directing groups.
So there are 52,
yeah.
they have got 52 others, right? Or like, I mean, this is just going to keep going. Like,
yeah, they're just going to keep going.
Like, I mean, that's the thing about math and numbers that just like will combobulate my head. Numbers never stop, like ever. And then like, and how do we even figure this? Like, how is one, like, how do we know 1, 2, 3? It just like,
it's all made up.
Blows my mind. Yeah.
It's all made up.
Exactly. It's like, who made this up?
So the reason that prime numbers are such a big deal is because what they found is like, they were like, I wonder if you combine 2 and 5. Will that give us the meaning of 10? And they found that that is consistent. So the multiple of like the prime numbers 2 and 5, they combine the meanings for 10. So 10 is just like the combination meaning of 2 and 5. So they can get all the way up to any multiple of any of these numbers they've already found, but the prime numbers you can't find from multiples of other numbers. So that's why the prime numbers are. So it's kind of like the way they found the periodic table of elements. They were kind of like jumping around a little bit. So
that is wild. And then you're also into attraction and compatibility. So for people who because we went to the hardest one first, vibrational. So I was just so curious about it. So let's put it in reverse.
Interesting.
Yeah. What is attraction and compatibility astrology?
So every astrologer does it a little different, I think. But we all look into things like the 7th house, Venus, Mars. What I've learned through attraction and compatibility, just through my own theories and then applying them, and then also applying a little bit of vibrational astrology, because apparently people with really similar vibrations end up finding each other. Me and my current partner actually have the exact same most prominent vibration, which is really interesting. I'm like, I wonder how often this happens, or like what that looks like in the real world. But anyways, compatibility. I'm starting to notice. Here's what I think it is, based on the vibrational theory combined with regular modern astrology theory, and that's like, it's not about like having necessarily the same signs together, or like trines or sextiles or whatever. I think it's about having the same aspects to the same planets. Not the exact same aspects, just aspects to the same planets, because it's like your lives are interacting with the same themes. If you have Venus sextile Mars, they can have Venus conjunct Mars, and that would make you more compatible because your Venus and Marses are interacting within your own life. So you might come at it from a slightly different angle, literally, but you have an understanding of like, oh, these two things intermingling. And whenever this gets like, obviously these factors, there's hundreds of aspects. So like the more of those you have in common, the more compatible you are. That's what my theory is. But I also look into things like just, again, how are the signs in their pure forms mostly compatible, or is there like a rulership that's compatible? Things like that. There are definitely like lots of, I'm fascinated. I'm a fucking Libra. I love romance. Okay.
Right.
Like, let's balance these scales. Like I love the back and forth. I love the tango, like metaphorically, literally speaking. It's just it's always been a fascinating subject to me. So I'm really passionate about it. And I think people often like think that their like version, their the way that they think about compatibility is how it applies to everyone, and it's like, it's so different across the board. People need different things in different relationships.
100%.
And not every person is going to be like, their compatibility is not always going to be based on their moon and their Venus, which I think is like some of the most common things we attribute compatibility to. But not every relationship is about love languages and emotions, which is probably foreign to a lot of people.
That's refreshing, because I constantly attract Earth Venuses, and my Aries Venus is like, what the fuck is this?
Right.
So that is like, I want you outside with a boombox, but thanks for the practical aspects. Yeah. So that's a refreshing aspect to hear.
Yeah, it's definitely not about, and like maybe it's maybe between the two of you, it's like your Venus or your moon, or it's like your Mars and your sun, or like something like that. Like it's not a linear thing. Like
Mhm.
one birth chart's complicated enough. When you put two people together, that's like exponentially more complicated. It's not like, yeah.
Ugh. I love those sessions. Like doing compatibility is one of my favorite fucking things. And not even just romantically. Like I've got a new client that's gonna like has co-founded a business and I'm gonna run the charts for the co-founders and do that joint reading. And it's just
Oh
like
my
so
gosh.
interesting. And then you're paying attention to different indicators. I'm not looking at like how spicy is this relationship. I'm looking at like how functional is it, right?
Yeah,
I'm glad that you're
functional is really what we're looking for. Yeah.
totally, yeah. And I mean, then I do think that there's a stuff that kind of transcends astrology too, where it's like no matter how freaking compatible, quote unquote, two charts could be, it's like what is the willpower of each person and the willingness to work through
The
any
willingness.
challenges that
Yeah,
are gonna
that's
come
so
up.
huge.
Like I just think that's so important. So I like that you're taking the approach you are and like meshing like vibrational astrology into it. I'd take more like a relationship, like psychology and theory. Like I feel like that's a little bit more of where I tend to go with it. But either way, like I think you're doing it right because you're defying these traditional notions of like the old school sun sign compatibility books. Like I'm so sick of that shit. I just this morning had to do an interview with The Knot, which is like that marriage website, magazine. And like it was all about like
compatible.
yeah, it was
from the
literally
most
about that.
long-lasting
It was,
love.
dude, it was straight up about that. And so like I did say like what are marriage indicators? I said that, and then
Who's
they were
most
like,
likely to get divorced?
Yeah,
Well,
did
there
you
was-
shut him down? Did you tell me
there
to
was
shut
none
him
of-
down, Ryan?
there wasn't that question. I had to list like five compatible sign matches, and so I just was like, here are five traditionally compatible matches.
in heaven.
But then they were like, are there any like incompatible indicators or signs that like don't get along with each other? And I was like, no, like this, I'm not like playing this game. This is like a belief system that I like try to unlearn. Like people need to unlearn that stuff. It's like I said straight up, like it technically like the signs that are 6 signs apart in traditional compatibility, no, they don't get along, like Aries and Virgo, Gemini and Scorpio. But then I used that example. I was like, my fucking favorite people are Scorpios. I love Scorpios. Like I get along so fucking well with that energy. I have clients in these relationships. It's crazy how many Gemini Scorpio relationships
Dude, some
I've
of
read
my
for.
favorite people as a Libra, some of my favorite people are Pisces and Tauruses. Like consistently,
It's like, and there's like, I think that maybe there's like an evolution a little bit of the self there where it's like I'm interested in the people that challenge me because you're seeing that as a growth opportunity for the self. Like it's not the easiest, no, but there's so much more to gain from that. Like that's I think the important thing is like I don't want to see 2 charts that it's like, oh my god, all of your planets are in the same elements, it's so compatible, because what a fucking boring relationship that would turn out to be.
right?
Like
Yeah.
truly.
I think you probably have noticed this as well, where like one of the most common aspects I see in quote compatible charts is squares, because that's where all the action is happening, is in the squares.
Absolutely.
And oppositions too.
Square. Yeah.
I love squares. Squares are I'm down with the squares. I'm also down with trioctiles. Trioctiles are great.
Okay. Yeah. Like I feel like I never even get into any like minor aspects when I'm doing readings, at least, unless it's like a reoccurring client and we're able to go super nitty-gritty with stuff. But otherwise I tend to stick to like the major aspects.
I typically stick to I don't even do aspects when it comes to birth chart readings, as a matter of fact. I know that's probably crazy. But when it comes to compatibility, I go deep on the aspects, because to me, that's where I feel like the aspects come out. The way I read, the aspects almost come out when you read the 2 descriptions together. Like you can tell immediately whether or not these 2 energies, where they're going to align and where they're not. And that's why a lot of astrologers use those huge orbs, because it's like, even if it's in the energy, like there's going to be conflict somewhere and there's going to be compatibility somewhere. Like that's just the way the cookie crumbles.
That's a big reason why I use whole sign astrology, which I don't want to get too technical, but like that is, because the orbs kind of like have that little bit of fluctuation with them, like whole sign kind of accounts for some of that stuff. Xyla uses a system called Placidus, which is what I started in, and it's great. Like I think it works wonders. And just for anybody listening,
tell people what the difference really quick. So because what the difference between those 2 would be. So
Well, and there's like a couple dozen like house systems. It's basically what it's called. And it's different ways that you can perceive a birth chart. And the way I just like simply would put it is like it's a different lens to look at someone's chart through. And so an astrologer should find like what's the lens, like the pair of glasses that I see astrology the clearest with. And I started learning through Placidus and it was fine. It really was, but predictively things weren't making sense and I didn't really care about predictions. And then when I switched to whole sign, it was just like it was actually unavoidable. I hated it. It was like a crisis of consciousness switching to whole sign because it moves your planets into different houses often. And I didn't like where it was moving things, but it just made sense based on my life experience. And then predictions started really coming online for me. But that's not I'd say like, half of astrologers these days are using Placidus, half are using whole sign. Both of those are like incredibly common. So I don't really think there's like an issue with either. It's just a difference of interpretation,
It cracks me up when people want to fight about which one is correct. I'm like, there is literally equal amounts of astrologers using one or the other. And so sometimes both, because I think that you get more out of comparing different ways of reading it, like because you're looking for different things sometimes, like especially like when you tap into Vedic a little bit, like you can pull some interesting stuff out of Vedic astrology, especially with the lunar mansions. Like I got a lot out of figuring out my nakshatra and I was like, what? Like this is creepy, like how much this knows about me. So.
You just have to know to like separate them because like I can't take my nakshatra and then like put it into whole sign perspective because things change. So it's like, it's weird. Like you do have to really like separate them. They are kind of mutually exclusive in many cases. Or like like horary astrology, I believe was developed in Regiomontanus is what the house system is called. And so if you want to uphold a certain astrological technique, you want to use the system it was developed in, right? Rather than trying to take that technique and apply it to a different house system. This is very technical for sure, but it's just interesting.
I was gonna say, Ryan, you're gonna have to put this stuff in the show notes for people.
I know.
We're figuring out a little hard.
Yippee-ki-yay, click, click.
I'd say it's cool if anybody wants to just like practically play with this, truly. I'd say like I always recommend the app Time Passages. I feel like it's intuitive and they got good interpretations of your placements and transits, but it's very easy in Time Passages to just go to your settings and click house system, and there's a whole list of different house systems, and you can just keep switching and seeing how it changes the way your chart looks and find like what seems to fit the most for your life experience. I think that's really a big part of astrology, is just trying to decipher like how is this shit showing up for me. Once you've locked in on that, then that's kind of like where I'm like, that's the system that I think makes the most sense for you to stick with.
So let's talk about Lilith and Chiron. Do I say that right?
Chiron, yeah. Because this is cool. This was one of the first things I noticed about Xyla is like, when I found her, she was doing this big Lilith series, and I don't use Lilith. Chiron is big. I feel like anybody getting into astrology comes into like their like Chiron like freak phase. Like you get obsessed with figuring out your Chiron.
Oh my god, they really do those.
Yeah,
really
and it's cool. It's cool. Like Chiron's conjunct my sun, so I'm like very like into that. But it's it is more nuanced. But Lilith is one I've never really felt called to use. Please, will you explain? Explain both of them.
Yes, my pleasure. So it's funny that it's so funny to me that people are very like, oh yeah, Chiron is the thing we're all accepting now. It previously, like, I think it's been sort of like historically speaking, Chiron's a relatively new aspect in astrology people are all on board with. And Lilith is one that I thought everybody was on board with. And then it was kind of news to me when all these astrologers are telling me like, I don't really use Lilith. And I'm like, what? Really? But it's an invisible aspect in the sky. I honestly don't even remember what it's calculated on. Because nobody asks, right? I the knowledge is lost to me now. But I did look it up at one point. It's an invisible point. I want to
say I think it's the moon's apogee, which is like the closest like if the moon was always at its closest point to Earth in its orbit, I think that's where Lilith is, or it's the farthest. Like when the moon's the farthest away it could possibly be from Earth, like that point in the sky is Lilith. It's one of
I
those
feel
two, I
like
believe.
maybe that sounds
The
right because
farthest.
the nickname is the Black Moon or the dark side of the moon.
Yeah,
And so it being farther away from Earth kind of, and then,
makes
the
sense.
whole lore behind the Jewish mythology of Lilith, like her being banished from the Garden of Eden. I feel like the furthest, but well, we should look it up. We should look it up for facts, for factual sake later or something. But it's in your birth chart, Lilith is it has a lot to it. It's your repressed inner child, the Jungian repressed inner child archetype. And it manifests in a various amount of ways, but it's sort of like your auxiliary Mars sign when your Mars fails. Like when your whole birth chart fails you in a situation related to danger, trauma, this is going to come out, and it's likely going to be a part of yourself that you cringe at, that you don't recognize, that scares you. And it also is like an inner demon is a series I've started, the Inner Demon series, related to Lilith. That's my heart and soul right there. It's like making friends with your inner demons and being friends with your dark side was the reason I actually started doing TikToks and getting on live stream. And I like utilized this aspect of my birth chart to become more magnetic, to become more inspirational, and like help people find themselves, because that was a part of me that it's on the other side of my birth chart from everything else. And so it was kind of like lost to me, and it's like on the dark side of my psyche that I never visit. And when I reincorporated this part of my personality, it just felt like everything clicked. Like it was like I was whole again. Like no part of me was lost or abandoned anymore. And I was finally like free. It's like embracing your inner wild, primal side. And it's very much related to sex, empowerment, the witch within, if you will, like those inner child wounds, the trauma. Some say it's related to like the father wound, and the Chiron is like the mother wound. Sometimes people say that. It could be either way, but for me it kind of resonates as like the father wound. And also it's like the inner dark feminine in all of us as well. And it's also, I've noticed this more recently, it's how you power trip.
Mm.
Yeah. So it has a lot of depth to it.
How do you power trip is so like no one ever, because there's always this conversation about
wants to talk
ego.
about that. Uh-huh.
Yeah, like, no, I'm totally balanced and I don't ever get off my rocker. So how you power trip. Oh, that is good.
Yeah, it goes really deep. And I was here's Ryan's actually. I was reading a Virgo Lilith the other day, and I was like, you guys, and this perfectly fits with his operation on his channel. He loves to like get after people who are not using knowledge appropriately. He likes to criticize and be like, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, like the Virgo, like,
Yeah.
and that's like a power trip for a Virgo sign. And I'm like, oh, his Lilith's in Virgo. So
That's very true. That's a very, very, very true for me, for sure. And it's like
like
it is
calling
those
someone
things
out when
that,
they're wrong.
yeah, and that like I think lack of control where it's like I really can't help it sometimes, which I do also attribute to Aquarius rising often, where it's like I just have to go against what this person is saying or doing. But like that's very true. Like I will get riled up, like the Lionsgate bullshit. Like I was like, I have to fucking say something on this. Like something will overtake me for damn sure. And then I will go on a power trip. And it's a very different version of myself. Cause like largely I will be very, I think, uplifting and inspiring and educational, blah, blah, blah. But then like that catty bitch comes out
Yeah.
too.
Mm-hmm. I love to see it. I mean, I love Lilith. When I see Lilith, I'm like, ah, there she is. There she is.
So interesting.
So this would tie into obviously, you being a witch, practicing sex magic. I mean, I would assume this would all, be a trifecta, so to speak, and go hand in hand.
I feel like so many of my things in my life kind of feel far apart, but they're all interconnected, much like my study of Lilith, my sex magic practice, being a witch, and then working with Lilith herself, if any of you guys are into deities. She's not for everyone. She's definitely not for everyone. But she's helped me a lot with empowerment, like feminine freedom, Just it's like if you want to take your power back, like this is the energy you need to tap into in your birth chart. For that like healing of empowerment. And it's something that it's not like Chiron, whereas they say here's to as a compare contrast with Chiron. These are both aspects, as a matter of fact, related to witchcraft. One being about like empowerment, willpower, and like just the chaos within us. And then the other is more like healing, the healing aspect, the spiritual, it's the trauma cycle that just within like that is a singularity within you is what Chiron is. Like, the lore of Chiron, the wounded centaur. I don't know if you guys can hear my cat screaming right now.
No.
No. Yeah.
Okay, good. I'll keep going. So yeah, Chiron, the wounded
yeah,
healer.
Mom, get it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kitty. Thank you, Beans. But yeah, no, Chiron, it's like I heard it really put this way by Soul Navigation Astrology. She's wonderful on YouTube, this woman, Soul Navigation Astrology. She said that Chiron is like the poison that someone gave us that just continues to infect, but we take and we make medicine from. So it's a wound you have to manage. It's an infection you just constantly have to manage, much like a mental illness.
Yeah.
And then you can take that medicine that you made from your poison and heal other people with it as well.
Yeah, and it tends to be like more alternative healing with Chiron versus like that's the part of you that's going to want to go like see an herbalist versus going to like get your medicine at a pharmacy or something.
Yeah. It's a spiritual wound for sure. And I've noticed a lot. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, and for anybody like wondering, like Chiron is a physical placement in the sky. It's a planetoid that has this like really erratic orbit between Saturn and Uranus, which is important because Saturn's the last planet we can see with the naked eye. And so it represents boundaries and like limitations, Saturn. And then Chiron flying, like tying the energies of Saturn and Uranus together. It's showing us where we're limited and feel very restricted. And then when we embrace those restrictions, come to terms with them, Chiron like moves us to Uranus, which is the planet of liberation, freedom. So we transcend these limitations that are in our lives.
Oh, that's fascinating. I've never heard it like that before. That was so cool. Wow. Okay. Meg, I know you're a Reiki.
Yeah.
Reiki master, Reiki healer.
Yep, I'm a Reiki master. Yeah.
Where is your Chiron placement?
Ryan, where is my
your Chiron?
Yeah,
let me get your chart. Let me pull it up.
That is, as you guys were talking, I was like, that's not. I know you mentioned it before, Ryan.
I have. I know. I have.
We haven't really gotten in depth with it, so I was like, I was making a mental note, like I need to look into this. I know my Lilith is about to fuck shit up this year. I remember you saying April. It was like da 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 da.
Yeah, I did use Lilith for you. Oh my God, I forgot that I used your Lilith. I was like on a rampage actually about your Lilith for a minute. That was nuts, dude. Your Chiron is in Gemini in the 6th house.
Oh, that makes sense. That makes so much sense to me. The 6th house Chiron, like being a healer.
Absolutely.
What I do, and as you were talking about like taking, like I do take all my pain and turn it in, like all my life lessons. I'm like, every time I encounter some sort of bullshit, I'm like, well, here we go. Here's another opportunity to take this and make magic and help people through it. So I mean, it all tracks.
It's kind of like the ultimate alchemy part of your chart, like alchemizing your pain into healing. And then
which
also
is exactly what I do. Yeah.
I mean, for sure. Cool. It's like the superpower that came from a curse. Like,
yeah. And I'm an addict. So, like I'm an alcoholic. Like cocaine was my jam. So, it's like, having, Pisces, like the Pisces side of me loves to numb out. Obviously that's not, you can't do that.
No, not the most constructive thing.
Yeah, I was like, I don't need coffee. We can just do a bump to get this day going.
Yeah. And that's like, I'll usually look at like the aspects Chiron's making to other planets in your chart, but then also the sign I think lends the most. Like people with Chiron and Gemini tend to have like a self-perception problem, and they often think like Gemini being communication, like nobody's gonna want to hear what I have to say. So like, and so with you in the sixth house as well, like I think that would be when you're in those sixth house opposing your 12th house of like addictions, the difficulty of seeing when something like a vice is taking over and like that it's actually causing harm, wounding Chiron, but that it then transforms into the greatest point of healing that you have. And now it's like a huge part of your life and your work.
Yeah, that's so wild. It's wild too how everything, like, you know, we have astrology, and then as as you know, this chart will play off your numerology chart, will play off your human design chart, and how everything is just, if everyone was to like, but maybe that's something all you guys need to do. You need to find a numerologist. You need to find, you know, you have a human design and you have some sort of like sick conference or like this, like I mean, like you guys don't have enough on your plate, but like brilliant business idea, like we're going to come together, all of us. And then I can create a plan off of all the information you give me to help these people. So
yeah, you put the event together, girl. You're the event organizer. You put it together. We'll show up for sure.
Yeah, we'll I'd be down.
That sounds cool. All right. You heard it here first, people. It's going
Love
down.
That. I actually just made a connection with a psychic, so this could be real.
Yeah. I got a numerologist, a really good one.
Hey, there you go. And then we just need a human design girly pop to come.
Oh, we got him.
Oh, yeah, we got a couple of them.
Oh, we got them?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. There we go. The Avengers are assembling.
Hell yeah. I love it. So explain more about like the way witchcraft is in your life, and especially like, I mean, there's a lot I know that you can go into with this, but you've got a couple like really fascinating stories, including I want to call everybody's attention back to our episode with Karen Montowski. This I found so fascinating about Xyla. In our episode with Karen Montowski, like all about like spirits and angels and demons, we made a joke about how like nobody's working with like the big gun gods anymore. Like why isn't anybody working with Zeus? And that was like the funniest fucking thing. Guess who works with fucking Zeus? Xyla.
Shut up. Yeah, because it was like, where is, you know, God, where is the God? I had to stop making jokes this summer because I would just like start being like, God of thunder, and it'd be beautiful sunny day. And then all of a sudden, and I was like, I'm just joking. Please don't.
Wait, never mind.
I mean, like, I know, but like, my bad. Whoa.
Gotta be careful though, for real though, with that kind of, because you'd be surprised who's gonna respond to you.
Yes.
You'll be surprised. Like the Lilith and then Zeus. I was like, hello, what? So I found Zeus sort of through everything in my life is very intersectional. 7-Eleven.
He was getting gas.
Yeah, he offered to pour my gas for
powering up his lightning bolts.
Yeah.
That's where I get my energy, my 7-Eleven coffee right here.
Beautiful. Yeah, no, I like, it's been an energy that's been present, like that I've felt since I started my witchcraft practice, like this electricity. Like just this sort of like that, almost like it manifests as like muscle tension, like, and you know, the muscles are like controlled by nervous system, electrical impulses. So it's like, it kind of is a physical thing, like everything is intertwined, right? But I've always just sort of resonated with that like electrical power. And I don't know if it's like my Uranus conjunct my ascendant in Placidus or what it is, but then also I was like, I thought it was Uranus the whole time, like God of the sky. Like we associate Aquarius and Uranus with electricity a lot and like technology. And so I actually did this painting. Like I'm actually starting to wonder if the things that I paint are predictions, and I have no idea. Anyways, we'll get back to them maybe a year from now. We'll see how that turns out. But
she'll also be painting at our event. So
could you also paint our podcast at the top of the chart?
She'll be painting your future. So
yeah, just
paint me surrounded by piles of cash. Please.
Yeah, I'll just enter alpha state, manifest people's stuff into artwork. It'll be great. $200 a pop, you know.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I painted a thunderstorm like 2 summers, or no, it was last summer, not this past summer. So 2 summers ago. Yeah, 2 summers ago, I did this thunderstorm painting thinking it was about Uranus. And then the next summer comes up and I like tapped into my birth chart, like again, as one does. And I was like, you know, I'm actually a lot luckier according to my birth chart than I initially thought I was as a Cap rising. what does this mean? And then I started just, like thinking about it and everything I know about
Cap
mythology.
rising too. Yeah. That's how we get business done.
Get business done. Exactly. And then I was like, my sun and my moon are on either side of Jupiter in the 9th house. That's kind of a crazy lucky placement. And then I was like, Jupiter, huh? And then I was like, Zeus. Why didn't I think of that before? And it just like clicked. All of a sudden I was like, this has been Zeus the whole time. Are you freaking? That's why I didn't feel when I was calling on Uranus. I didn't feel connection. I didn't feel like a callback. And then every once in a while, I'll get this like the sixth sense that something is trying to reach out to me, some deity. But then I'll be like, "Oh, is that Hades?" And then I'll be like, "No, it wasn't me." And then I'll be like, "Lilith," or like, "Is it
present?"
This person? Yeah. And then they'll be like, "No, it wasn't me. That wasn't me." And then they'll just be like, "No." And then I was like, Zeus. And then it was just this immediate resonance that you can just sort of feel. It's like a knowing. I don't know. It's just like the witch's intuition tells you what to do. And that's kind of that's how you really supposed to go about things in witchcraft. There's not a lot of rules, right? Mm-hmm. So I was like, all right, let's just try this on for size. So I go about the way I do magic. And I was like, let's see if I get a response from this. Immediate intense response. The most intense response. I was like, holy shit, you've been here the whole time. And but you have to figure these things out as you go. Like, you got to experiment. You got to get things wrong sometimes. And I think that's important on the witch's journey, is like being willing to get things wrong. Like facing the fear of failure in your practice is like a big part of it. And as a Capricorn rising, like my fear of failure is the thing that holds me back the most. So part of personal development, like witchcraft has been a major thing in my personal development. And so yeah, tapping into that power was like one of the most transformational things for me, with around just realizing Daddy Zeus is here and he wants to hang. Like
Daddy Zeus.
Zaddy, for sure. He is literally like within you. I actually do find it fascinating. Like, Xyla was born on a new moon, literally like a couple hours after the new moon was exact. And that means that the sun and the moon are very close together. They're actually only 5 degrees separated, less than technically, in her birth chart. So when a planet comes between the sun and the moon in the new moon phase like that, it's very symbolic. The planet that's there is Jupiter, Zeus, go figure. So it's like the inner and the outer self is like enveloped by this Jupiterian influence, which is lovely.
It's big ego energy too. So,
hell yeah.
It's big feelings. Everything I realized about me has kind of been like bigger than, when you're a Libra sun, you're like, I'm so not important. Like, you put everyone before, like, you're always thinking of the people. And then it's like, you have this Jupiterian ass, right? You got this big fat dumper on your sun sign. Okay.
Wow.
Like, so it's kind of like being a Sag at the same time. And so many of my friends have been Sagittarius, so that also makes sense. But yeah, no, I like, you wouldn't think, like, basically my message for this is like, don't let any of the gods, if you feel like, if you're a deity person, if you're like, oh, this one's so basic, everybody works with that guy, or like, this god has like, problematic issues, whatever. Like, part of the issue, I think internally for me was like, oh, it's patriarchal. And like, but the gods also are like, they're living entities, like, not literally, but they're conscious. They change. Like, Lilith is a demon goddess and has a horrific history, but they change over time because like their consciousness is developing like throughout human history.
That's so interesting, because I don't think anyone ever thinks about that so you could, I mean, it makes sense though, that so you could be born, or you could exist in a certain way, have a horrific past, but then allowing the evolution of change within this energy that you're, or deity, or, consciousness that you're working with. That is fascinating.
It's like archetypal energy. So like, if anybody's interested in this stuff, I would recommend just like researching archetypes in general, because you see the like shadow side, the light side of any archetype, and there's a whole spectrum in between that you're sliding up and down.
Archetypal energy, I feel like, is also like, that's what astrology is like, it's study of the archetypes. And it ties so like seamlessly with mythology. And so yeah, that is like the Lilith archetype is like this literal like baby eater, and then but also like female empowerment. And here's the thing with Lilith is like you don't get to take the good without the bad. You have to accept that this is part of that deity's history, like just like you have to accept your own. Like none of us are pure good, none of us are pure evil. And I think that's something important we just need to, you can't, and also ignoring the past is like one of the how we perpetuate wrongdoing. And I think so acknowledging the past of these deities, what they've been, known for, like Zeus and SA, right? Like
yeah, absolutely. Zeus was all about like disrespecting someone's level of consent for damn sure. A lot of the gods had these issues.
A lot of the gods had these issues. Yeah.
And knowing like it's not literal, like stories exist for a reason. We learn from them and we can interpret. Like it's just you saying Lilith is a baby eater made me think of the fact that Saturn also ate his own children. Like he literally was like, and it's not it's not that like that's what the Saturn part of your chart is, but Saturn rules maturity and aging, and Saturn as the baby eater was more like scared that like someone more youthful than him was going to come up and take his throne. So there's
it was like karma. That's why it's the planet of karma.
Yeah. So there's like a lot of like stuff to glean from these myths and these archetypes. Like there's just different ways that they manifest in our lives.
Yeah.
Which I think is really interesting.
Yeah, and a lot of witches debate, or not really debate, but I think we all accept like different levels of like, is this deity, are they all projections of our subconscious, or is this really part of our reality? And the truth is, it doesn't really matter. You're experiencing it, like, if you're experiencing it, you're experiencing it, and like, you just kind of gotta read into it as best you can. Try not to like figure out your self-sabotage, obviously, because that's one of the biggest ways people misuse their intuition is not doing the shadow work. But I don't think people should like tell themselves like, oh, I don't know why this deity would ever want to talk to me, because they have literally endless time. They transcend space and time. They can talk to anybody they want to, like, just because they're curious. So don't hesitate to reach out to people, or just see what if you get a response, like you'd be shocked at who you get responses from. So that's all I'm saying.
For sure. And also don't pass judgment if you're not connecting with someone as well. Like,
yeah, that too. Don't pass judgment. And don't judge other people for the deities they choose to work with either, because they have their reasons.
Be polite. Yeah, that's the one thing.
Be polite, be respectful. Yeah. Be very respectful. That's also important.
So are you comfortable talking about a particular sex magic experience you had that has like totally moved you relationally?
And also, let's talk like what is sex magic? Because like a lot of people are imagining, I'm sure, like fire, like fire dildos, like where it can be literally just like, sacrifice, where it could be literally like you just getting off and imagining, setting a space, imagining something that you would like to manifest or bring in. There's so many different aspects, but what is it, or in the general context?
You've pretty much just hit the nail on the head there. Like you can literally just get yourself off in your bedroom while imagining something, like
which is hard to do if you're, because that's a lot of energy because you're focusing on one thing.
Yeah.
And then you gotta
split that brain in half.
Yeah.
I didn't say it was easy. I just said the idea was simple. So yeah.
I think it's really interesting. I just to like connect it astrologically here, like the fifth house is where you look at this stuff, because it is the house of sex, and like in a more leisurely sense, which is like this is like more of an activity. It's not like you can do sex magic with other people for sure, and like that's a harder thing. It gets much more complex when another person's involved.
Circle jerk.
No, for sure. But like it's interesting because the fifth house, being the house of sex, it's also the house of creation and things that wouldn't exist if you didn't exist, and children. And so sex is the purest form of creation energy. It literally creates life. So anything you want to create, aka manifest magic, can be used like through the activity of sex. It's an actual thing.
You're also spot on. From my understanding, from my experience, like creation energy is manifestation. Like manifesting through art is extremely powerful. Anything you make with your own hands is very powerful. Anything you make with your own body is very powerful because again, it's coming from the sacral chakra. Anything you create with your emotions, again, sacral chakra. And so doing that act like with your body as a tool was extremely profound for me for the like every time I've done it. And a lot of it you can use it for divination as well. Like I have I don't think there's any workmen in here right now. So I'll go in detail while I can. I have commonly used orgasms for divination. I have visions when like I enter that transcendent state because a lot of people say like, oh my soul left my body. Like it might have, honestly. Like you might have astral projected like during an orgasm.
Note, you need to always be careful. Like if you're playing the highlight reel, like be careful of who you're diddling your pickle to, because that can create that strong bond, my people. Like if people are like, oh, like this so-and-so can never get away from me. Yeah, because if you're constantly playing the highlight reel, that's why.
Yeah. Yep. Couldn't agree more with that. That's true. One of the I guess the most profound magical experiences I've had around this also involved Zeus. So like they kind of were, it was one and then the other. And it was just sort of like projecting a manifestation or asking for information upon climax. And then it would just be like again, a thunderstorm hits and I would just start seeing shit. Or then eventually, I was in a place in my life relationship where I was like, I don't really give a fuck anymore. And sort of in denial about what I wanted, but I was just like, I don't know what I want, but right now is not it. And I set up probably the most elaborate sex magic ritual I'd ever set up. And it was just kind of in the moment. And that's kind of when I think you should be doing it, is like when you feel like it, is again, feeling based, those impulses, you follow that. Like your body is an intuitive tool. You might be horny for other reasons than you think.
Yeah.
So I just followed that impulse. And then I was like, I set up crystal grid. There was like silk on the floor. I mean, it was like elaborate. I had a sex playlist playing. And there's this wonderful sex magic guru on TikTok. Her name's Amber Arrows. She's fantastic. Basically she's like, I can help you get anything you want through sex magic. And I'm like, I'm all about that. So what I did in this ritual was I asked for everything I've ever wanted. And I was able to picture it so vividly. It was like a timeline, like flash before my eyes. And then the very next day, and I put this all on Zeus and I was like, I could feel the presence. It just was like, I was not in my body. I was like, I didn't know where I was anymore. Like it's just on a trip. Right. And then finish exactly at midnight somehow. That was pretty weird. The next day, a thunderstorm destroyed the town that I lived in and shut off my electricity, spiraling me into like forcing me into like looking at the relationship I was in and realizing that this was not it. This is not what I wanted. And yeah, basically I kind of set up a situation subconsciously to catapult me into a divorce. Wow. Like I forced myself into a divorce. My higher self was like, yep, this is the situation. You asked for chaos, you're going to get it. So, and I left within 48 hours.
I'm wild, right? And I think like that's just like an interesting like thing for people to know is like when you are asking for things from the universe in any capacity, you should also be aware that like you only get so much kind of energetic space to take up, and some things will leave. Like to acquire what you want can often mean a departure from certain things that are already in your life.
Yeah, you don't get to control it, and it's not just and when you ask for it, it's not, and it might not be like sweet. Yeah, it's not going to be like, oh, welcome, honey. Like, come on. I mean, like it might, but it also be like, okay, I've got to tear this. I've got to rip this violently away from you.
Right.
It's even like why, like, I mean, everybody always uses this quote, which I'm getting like so eye rolled for, but like, it's like it's called spelling for a reason. Words are spells. And it's like, it's true, but like, I do a lot of like the lunar cycle manifestation stuff and teach clients about that. And then when I'm teaching them about like writing a wish list on the new moons, I'm like, you have to be incredibly careful about your wording. Because if you're like, I want a new car, the universe might deliver you a new car by putting you into a car accident where your current car gets totaled and now you got a broken leg, but you're gonna get a new car.
Yeah, you gotta be careful what you wish for. And transformation, as Scorpio teaches us, transformation is a messy process. It's an ugly process. It's scary. It's not pleasant. And if you want an upheaval, you better be ready for everything to get turned upside down. Even this, like, especially the stuff that makes you comfortable. And that's what I learned doing Chaos X Magic.
Yeah.
Long story short.
So I don't want to like spend too long on this next subject here. Because we're gonna do like a full episode on this subject, but I think it's just interesting to touch note on. So like, because you left 48 hours later, like upended one relationship, it moved you into a new one, no?
It did in fact. And it was not something I was looking for. I was really in denial about my tie to the person, because as a married person, as somebody who identifies as loyal and upholds the promises that they make, right? Even in the face of being miserable.
Libra,
I was like,
shocker.
Shocker, right? Trying to meet other people's expectations constantly. Guilty. And then someone just fell into my lap and I was like, instantly just, so it was like it was like a blast from the past, basically. It was what it felt like. That's the only way I can describe it. Like, even upon our first meeting, he was like, I feel like I know this person. We met in a live stream over talking about dragons, funny enough. So there's the dragon again.
Yeah.
And I was just like, and then I saw the profile picture. I can't even hear or see this person, really. Just the profile picture and what they're saying is all I have. And I'm like, I feel like I know you for some reason. Like, I was just certain that we had a mutual connection. And he's like, nope, I'm like from nowhere near you. And I don't know anyone that you know. And like, sure enough, like, we don't have any, there is absolutely zero mutual connection, like, impossible. And then, after getting to know each other and getting a hold of the birth chart, because this person became a client of mine, that was like how we met initially, and after the live stream. And then I was like, me writing up this romantic section for this reading was like, I was like, why is this section describing me? That's really bizarre. But I was obviously keeping everything professional and just sort of like wrote that off. I was like, I'm just a Libra. I just crush on people. Like, that's just what happens, as one does. But then, the connection builds. And it's like, why are we describing the same life story when we describe our pasts? We arrived at the same values in the same spiritual space. And also both being artists, like both having, interesting, like mother-child relationships, and also both having gone to engineering school, quitting, and then becoming like an artist.
Wow.
Like very similar backstories. It was bizarre. And then on top of that, like the charts, like it's literally like one half and then the other. Like you can literally like fit them together like puzzle pieces. It's really crazy looking. We also both have to be Aries and a Libra. So it's like Mars and Venus, Aphrodite and Aries. It's, and then when all of this was going on, when I realized this is so much deeper, this connection is bigger than what I want, or what I think I should have, or what I pictured myself having, I was like, but I just pushed that to the back of my head. I was like, you can't do that. Like, my old ways were like, you can't entertain this. This is immoral. And it was like, this is like, but then I realized, my higher self realized, like, this is bigger than the promise you made. And this was all to teach you a lesson about making choices for yourself and not for other people. But like, I just had this, like, this person taught me so much about what loving yourself really means before ever having any sort of like intimate romantic connection at all, like just through friendship.
Wow.
And we healed each other in so many ways, like talking about our pasts, and like just over the weeks, it was like I couldn't believe like how many like mental, emotional mountains I had moved just from talking to this person. And the experience was mutual. And I was like, you know, after the thunderstorm, my electricity, I was like, what am I doing to myself? What am I doing to myself? Just staying here out of loyalty,
Obligation.
out of
Yeah.
obligation, out of expectation. We were both miserable. My husband and I were. And so it was then, I was like, I have to meet, quote, twin flame in person. I guess I don't know if we threw the word
There
out
it
there.
is. We
There it
didn't
is.
yet.
I got to meet twin flame in
Yeah.
person. And then I left. I fled. I was like, because I need to know that this is real. I need to know it's real for real.
Well,
Turns
so
out it
what's
is.
interesting is the chart like aspect. I mean, is that, because I'm sure Ryan and I told you we're a little skeptical of the term twin flame, but to have the chart aspect, like not complete one another, but like what does that look like? Because that's very interesting.
It is interesting. It's something that I feel is probably in the cards for me, is talking about twin flames and astrology. And that's probably not going to happen for a few years at least, because of all of the stigma that's been put out now, thanks to cults.
Yes.
So demonizing the term and people using it in a way it ought not be used. I even hesitate to use it now because it just puts a bad taste in my mouth.
I mean, I wonder if you can rebrand it, like to what it was, what it authentically is, instead of what people have made it to be, which is a reason to stay in an absolutely toxic relationship where you're getting abused, because I mean, change it, because the term it's damaged. The term is damaged goods, but the concept, could be revived.
Which is why I'm glad you explained the relationship before even dropping the word, because I think that's probably a relational experience so many people can relate to. I sure as shit can. Like I think like we know that these exist. But yeah, it's like I think the hesitation with using that terminology, which is important. Again, words matter, there's balls, but like it really does. Like I'll get clients all the time who are like, when am I gonna meet my twin flame? And then I have to go through this whole discussion with them of like, you got to work on your relational boundaries, and like you're looking for the wrong thing.
Like that might not have incarnated with you in this lifetime. I think there's so many different layers, and people are like, are your soulmates here? Do we have several? Absolutely. Do you, but your twin, that isn't, if we're going to go on what it is, that is your soul, half of you. I mean, like, so that might not be here this go around.
Right. I'm glad you brought up this concept, because part of my problem with the whole current popular existing narrative around twin flames is that it's two halves of a soul split in between two people. I hate that description.
I hate that.
Yeah.
It's not even real. I've never bought into that. I actually never believed in soulmates before I met this person. I didn't believe in that at all. I was like, we just learn through whatever relationships we're in. You make choices about love, etc., etc. Now I know it's much deeper than that. Here's what my proposal for the twin flame is, and what some spiritually mature people in my community have also been like, yeah, that feels right. That sounds right. And it's two people who like signed contracts before coming here that they would re-meet in this lifetime, because I think it is someone, it's a soul from your past life that you definitely knew each other from before. Because like a lot of our interactions, we would say like, why does this feel like a memory is coming back? Like, but I don't remember it like physically. And yeah, very bizarre. And then so it's not a split soul. It is two souls of the same vibration that agreed to come back to this lifetime and re-meet again. It's a specifically romantic relationship that is part of your spiritual journey. It's not that you are on a spiritual journey. Like, you are on a spiritual journey together. They're intertwined, but you have your own line to follow. Like, and making your journey about this other person is fallacious. It's incorrect. Like that's not the way to go about it. Like your journey is about self-love. You don't improve for them, you improve for yourself. And you might be motivating one another. You want to see each other grow because you are mirrors of each other. It's true. But you can't like make everything you do about that person. You can't manifest this specific person that you want. If you already have someone in mind before you've allowed the universe to bring the person to you, you're already off course. Like, if they've already been brought to your life and you're like, if it happens serendipitously, you're like, I didn't try to make this happen. It just did. You know, could be it. It could be it, but like let the universe take you on the journey. If you try to steer, you're already doing it wrong. Like, don't try to steer.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is, I don't know, it is fundamentally like a different level of relationship. I don't know,
Yeah.
which can like again, being careful about how you explain it and who you explain it to, because it can make other people think you're in a toxic relationship. Like this isn't like it's too intense. That's like a red flag or something. I don't think that's true. Like I just don't. There's just like you feel the difference with like that type of like much, much deeper past life soul connection with
It's a
someone. It's like,
spiritual intimacy.
yeah, like you could be envisioning your life with someone and you're like, yeah, practically this makes sense. I could love them the rest of my life, but there could be a whole other person that's much, much, much deeper for you. And you just know it's like a different level. Like it just is. So I don't know, like you feel it if you're, I think, in it. I'm just always careful about the twin flame language, because then people start Googling twin flames and what is this concept? And then you run into the rabbit hole of all sorts of things in spirituality where then you're like a fucking QAnon fan. Like it's just like all of a sudden like these like crazy, crazy spaces. So you just got to be a little careful with that. We'll do a whole deep dive on twin flames. There's a couple documentaries out actually, I think.
Yeah, right now it's a hot topic.
Yeah, hot topic. So we'll probably do that soon.
Yeah, why we're touching on it lightly, because it is such a hot topic.
It is. We'll do a whole deep dive on that. That said, as a Libra, as someone into relationship astrology and all these dynamics, I want to know your thoughts on the South Node currently moving through Libra, and like how you've felt that or seen it show up.
Yeah, because all the Libras I know are getting spanked right now, or like, I mean, or relationships that aren't supposed to like be. It is right now. I mean, it's spicy out there.
Yeah, the Venus retrograde, honestly, for me, has been worse than the South Node so far. But I think for the South Node is almost off of my sun. I don't remember what degree it's at right now.
It's at 23, so it's gonna hit your sun exact around like the 25th of December, right? The holidays.
Interesting.
Which isn't a bad thing. I've seen like South Node hitting your sun or your moon. Like it doesn't have to be bad. It can sometimes feel like this amazing cathartic release. Like there can be like a traumatic experience that like pops up or something, but it's coming up to be released, and then you feel so much lighter on the other side of it.
Yeah, more or less what I feel like has been like sometimes old habits coming back up, or memory, like old thought patterns is really what I've been struggling with a lot lately, which is because it is crossing my moon, Jupiter, and sun. So and I think the North Node is going through my 4th house when I look at whole sign. And a lot of the memories that are coming up is like my relationship with my family, my parents, and like the trauma from my childhood has been coming up a lot, like mentally. And that's the main thing I'm dealing with. And then, just in coupling with that, that's probably why some old cycles have come up for me behaviorally. Like when you live in the past mentally, your body doesn't know the difference. So then those old habits come up and it's all tied together.
It's interesting. I would also say like just like intuitively what I know of you now is like, with all that South Node energy in your 10th house in the whole sign chart, at least, it's kind of saying the identity that you've had in the past of like, I am an architect, I'm an engineer, I'm doing this old school way of work, which is the 10th house, is now like having you focus on that 4th house space of like, but like this doesn't work for me anymore. What's the new identity that I'm developing myself under? And you're kind of transcending the old career path basically, and allowing yourself to come into a new shape of identity, which you're totally doing right now. Like absolutely. I think I only came across you after the nodes moved into this space anyway, you're putting yourself out there more. And I think coming to terms definitely with like the family dynamics, like if this was not a career path that they saw for you, you might be dealing with like some stress there. But I think you're allowing the self to change, the identity to change as far as what you do in the world and how you show up.
Yeah. To touch back on our previous twin flame subject and me meeting my twin flame, I like went on a tangent before what I wanted to say. So I don't know if you want to edit this to like make it line up, but I was gonna say that I saw the transits that were actually going to make this quote union happen about 2 weeks before all the shit went down. So I was like watching, and if you look at and you were asking me about like the astrology related to the twin flame thing as well. The date that aligned with me coming to where I am now to meet my current boyfriend, that day looks a lot like our composite chart.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you combine our charts, like it looks like that day. It's very bizarre.
Yeah,
so that's
cool.
some astrology fun facts for you about that. I think I have one other twin flame couple that I know of that they're like together. They haven't moved in together, but they're together. And their charts have interesting synastry as well. So I thought I'd bring that up. They actually both happen to be Leos. So I feel like oppositions are common and same sun signs can be common, but it's not necessarily that always. It can be it could be a broad array of things. So that's my theory at this point.
Totally. I can echo it too. Like when I met I can't say twin flame, but like the person that's like the most important person in my life, it was definitely when I saw it in a dance, in a transit. I was hella single at this point and was like, hell no, it's not going to happen. Like that could never happen. I have such a single looking chart, I feel like, as well. And then there was like this really dope thing happening in my seventh house partnership. It literally like clockwork, met this person, totally random. It shouldn't have even happened. It was like an accident that we met, like total fucking accident.
Yeah. You know what was happening in my chart was that Venus and Mars were conjunct in my seventh house, and then Venus representing Libra and Mars representing Aries. Twin flame was in Aries, and then all of this was happening during Gemini season, the sign of the twins. And I was like, "Are you fucking shitting me right now?" And then, yeah, I think the move was complete. Yeah, I think the move was complete actually on the date that looked like our composite chart because it was like kind of a month process. So yeah, that's what astrology facts about my life.
Love it. And like, okay, so before we wrap up here, I want to just get your quick thoughts on like, because we love to talk about like what annoys us in the spiritual space. So like, especially because you and I met on social, because you're doing such a good job at like holding other people accountable. Can you just give like some general thoughts on that? Like, what are the upsides and downsides of social media's impact in the spiritual community, and like why you think it's important to be kind of participating in this call out culture?
Oh gosh, I think there's people. I think historically speaking, there is a lot of ego in the spiritual space. Like people get really wrapped up in their interpretation of things and forget that this is a communal thing. It's not. I think we in the West like draw a lot culturally, and we take a lot of cues from Christianity. Like one guy leads a group, and everyone does what he says. And it's all up to my interpretation. And you come to me for guidance, la 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 la. And as someone who like, did deconstruction, and this is the problem, and this is just the epitome of the problem over here in general, culturally. I'm like, no, I need to constantly ferociously attack when I see this. People saying, come to me for knowledge. Don't rely on yourself. Don't trust your intuition. Like, it's like, and then there's that Bible verse that's like, lean not on thine own understanding, right? It's like, okay, this is a message to anybody who thinks they're better than other people. Okay, like what that is. Don't, like, again, and even this applies to us who are just starting out. Like, we should seek wisdom. We should make this a conversation. Like, it is a lot about your personal experience. And also, I heard a quote one time, I think it was from a Hindu monk on YouTube that said, the merit of a belief lies in its ability to help people or hurt people. And I
Truth.
was like, yeah, you can pretty consistently use that on any philosophy. Like if you follow that out and you live that philosophy out, if it hurts you or other people, that's not something you should subscribe to. If it
Yeah.
puts you in a position of power over other people or the other way around, that's not right. It should be about open-mindedness,
Yeah,
about
because you have so many people who also just want to like. I always make the joke I would be a great cult leader because, and that, you know, like you have to take that because it's like, here, I don't want to think, I don't want to do this. And I'm like, no, I'm just a guide. So I love this perspective that you're giving because it's like, no, don't give away your power. And also don't think that you're too powerful. Like
right.
it's an even keel here, people.
That is so funny that you say that about yourself because that's something I say about myself also. I've even made jokes like about there's a lot of lore in my community now. Like we have these people who took screenshots of me on the live stream and made that their profile picture, and we call them the clones, the Xyla clones. And I'm like, people are really gonna think this is a cult, guys. If you all start doing this, the people are really gonna think this is a cult. They're gonna get the government involved, okay? The joke has gone too far. Like, but now a lot of them are moderators, and it's just kind of like, okay, if you want to be a mod and you want to do this, you can if you want, but not everyone does it. I'm like, do it if you want to do it, participate if you want to. If you don't, then don't. And when people ask me like, what should I do about blank, I'm like, I know the limits of my authority. Like, you always have to keep yourself in check with that. Like, when someone's coming to you for advice, you need to know the limits of your own authority. Like, do you want that person to rely on you? Do you want to be responsible? First of all, do you want to be responsible for that person and what happens to them?
Precisely.
And
Yeah.
it's like,
what is
first
the
of
scope
all,
of your practice?
right. And like, first of all, no, I don't. And second of all, like, I'm here to empower the person. Like, you take that into your own hands. Make mistakes. Make a mess, you know? Like, you'll be better off like
What do you
finding
think?
yeah, what do you think? Like,
yeah.
what does this mean to you? And so I just try to encourage people to, whenever I don't know anything about it, I'm like, I'll tell him. I'm like, I don't know the answer to that, right? I don't make stuff up. I'll say my opinion, but then I'll explicitly be like, that's just my opinion, though. I don't. This isn't a fact. This is just my interpretation. So it's just important that you put out disclaimers, and that when you see people following someone who's using their authority or their influence inappropriately, that you address it, especially when people ask you about it. Because it needs to be talked about, it needs to be discussed.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with saying, I don't know. You know, like, that's a great question. I have no idea. Let's look into that.
We don't want to jump from like making like from one cult to another. Like, don't go from like from oh, I hate Christianity, and then just go seeking that somewhere else. Like,
and now I need another guru immediately.
Yeah, no, like, start relying on yourself. That's the best place to start. Is like, what do you want out of life? What's working for you? And so that's just always where I try to steer people. Always where I'm like, redirect back to yourself.
Totally. And I like the spiritual community aspect of it too. This is a community, and when you don't know something, not only is it cool to be like, you know, I'll go look that up and get back to you, but also to be like, I don't know, but you know who does? Like, to have referrals in your back pocket to send people to, so they're not just wandering around aimlessly. I think that's really important. And in that vein, anybody who's had like a reading with me, I always recommend getting as many perspectives on a chart as you possibly can. And Xyla is going to have a completely different perspective on your chart than I do. She uses a whole different system, and she comes from a completely different background. Like, you'll find out about your Lilith or whatever. So I want to like plug Xyla now. Like, where can people find you? Definitely like talk about the fact that you do live streams, but like, how can people get in touch with you, book you? What do you want to talk about?
Yeah, so my primary social media, and I'd say basically only one, is TikTok. You can find me there at Xyla Bones. Hit follow. Come jump in a live sometime. I always say that usually the evenings are dedicated to, quote, class time, but sometimes it just turns into like a friendly, just like open discussion with people, and that's what I feel like is fun for. Like, I want people to feel like active participants in their own education, right? Like people in my class. I call it my class. It is my class. They're, but they're like just as much my teachers and sometimes my entertainers as I am them. Like, make it your own education. Ask me the questions. Come, ask me whatever. And then, or if you want to test me out, do a test drive, $15 for a mini reading. And today is the last day.
That's really affordable. $15 for a mini reading.
I feel like it's pretty reasonable.
Yeah,
I might extend my sale. The sale's over today, which is when we're recording it. But so I might extend my sale, which is 30% off. But yeah, you can just check out the link in my bio and then read the descriptions of all the readings, see what works for you. I like to read career, relationships, and spirituality, and just also talk about big chunks of your personality. And and then I also do compatibility for romantic, and now I'm offering parent-child compatibility charts.
Wow.
So if you want to see, like, you know, why your relationship with your kid or your mom or dad is the way it is, you know, it could be an interesting endeavor for you. So
totally. Yeah. Before we publish this, I'll make sure to touch base with you. So if you do have a special running or something, we will indicate that in the show notes below. So definitely check the show notes to see if there's something running, and I'll make sure to then remove it once the promo ends. Any last words from anybody? This was lovely.
I loved this. Yeah, I loved this. I think you dropped so many gems of wisdom that aren't, you know, so even if you weren't, or even if you were confused about astrology, there were so many different gems that you dropped that are applicable to everything. So job well done.
That's so nice. Thank you. I'm kind of sporadic and all over the place, but this has been a lot of fun. I really enjoy talking to you guys. And I have been listening to your podcast for a few weeks now, and I've enjoyed everything you guys have been talking about so far. You guys are so much fun to listen to. So it was just a joy being on here.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to have you. Definitely check out Xyla, please, everybody. Megan, we'll shoot the shit in another episode.
Yeah, we got a lot of shit to shoot.
We got a lot of shit to shoot, man. All right. Well, thank you everybody so much for being here as always.
Thank you.
Appreciate you all.
Bye. Bye-bye.